The first step for me in making these animal pieces is the process of drawing in my sketchbook. I do that all the time. I have books that go back 20 years and I use them as a reference. But in the case of this alligator, I made a full-size pencil drawing and watercolor study and one or two other views of the piece from the top, from an angle, in order to tell the whole team that I'm working with what it will look like and how it'll be made. I was talking with Robbie Miller, and Robbie is kind of the color master on the team. He and I work out how everything's going to be colored in advance. Once the color is all determined, then Paul Cunningham starts making the bubbles. So to make that alligator, we have a ball that's about this big, and you can see that ball being dipped into the cold water and crackled. And then at that point, the bubble on the inside is small, so that you have a wall thickness. It's like this. So here's Rich Royal, who's the head blower on the team. He's dipping the blowpipe into that cold water, and it's a severe shock, and it's cracking the surface. But the inside is glowing orange hot, so it's not falling apart. So we end up with these deep fissures all over the surface. It looks like a big cantaloupe. And then they go over to another workstation where it's outside, and they rub iron oxide into the cracks with a sponge. And that's what all that surface red color comes from. It's just like rust. So they rub that on there a lot until it's way down in those cracks. Then wipe it all off with another rag, and then go back to the glory hole and reheat the bubble one more time. Melt all that in, and begin marvering again. The marvering table is out in the center of the room, that big steel table. We're talking back and forth all the time about the shape, about how long and tall it'll be. And following the chalk drawings, which are full size, we end up with a bubble that's just about as big as the real piece. And at that point, you can see Tony's blowing into one end. Rich is holding a torch at a specific spot on the bubble, and it's starting to bulge out. Those create the brows. We heated it with a torch, with an acetylene torch, oxyacetylene, and I started cutting in the line where the mouth will be laid in. What I'm really after are the two edges, those kind of soft bulges that create the sides of the lips going up the head of this alligator. Then the patch of red, which is to represent the open mouth. Then all the teeth, which are laid on one at a time. That's a little piece of glass that's rolled in white powder, ivory and white powder, and brought over and snipped off. And then I press them down with a knife to get them to be triangular like that. And then we laid on the lips. And then we put on the eyeballs themselves, the irises, and then finally the brow. And the brow is made with a quick little gather of clear glass that's rolled in chips of green and pistachio glass. And we left the chips big and chunky, like broken glass, so that they stand up. It looks like granola on there, just this big sort of stand-up, lumpy texture. It took a long time. I mean, there's at least an hour of manipulating the bubble that way. So it's reheated at least probably once every 2 minutes. And we're constantly heating up a specific place, blowing to get it to come out from the inside, or pushing to get it to go in from the outside until we arrive at the final form. At a certain point, we have to transfer it to the punty so that we can work the other end. Now, this is partly because I want it to be a vase. And the punty is a solid rod. It's the same length as the blowpipe. It's weighted at the other end to give it some balance. It's about 5 feet long. He gathers the glass, rolls it on the table and shapes it, and creates a kind of crown form. He brings that over to Rich after reheating it, and Rich attaches it to the bottom of the piece. And at that point, Ben, who's at the other end of the punty, is ready to take the piece on the punty. They blow on it to rigidize the glass, and at just the right moment, Rich will apply some cold metal or maybe a drop or two of water to the point at which that alligator is joined to its blowpipe. And then he gives the pipe a slight tap, and the alligator breaks there and is now attached by the base, and they go back to the glory hole to reheat the end, which was next to the blowpipe. I became interested in acid polishing in the early 70s, right when I came back from Italy. I wanted to have a certain look to my pieces because I feel that the soft surface that you can get by sandblasting first and then acid polishing really defines the form. Acid polishing is very dangerous. It's not something to fool around with. We dip each piece in hydrofluoric acid that's mixed with sulfuric acid to get that polish. And I'm not really a fan of highly reflective, shiny glass. I feel that the acid polished surface defines the form very clearly. And I think it's a deluxe and elegant surface too. It's really a great thing.